Hello, everybody. I know it's been a while since I've done a video here, but I really wanted to you know, come out with this because I've been seeing a lot of videos about these uh, 80 amp or 100 amp, 120 amp uh, arc welders, and they're the inverter style arc welders. And a lot of people are like, "Oh man, this sucks. It dies. It overheats, and then it just shuts off. They're not worth it." I just wanted to break it down here. I I've watched about nine videos of them, different types. The Yes Welder, the Chicago Electric Welder from like Harbor Freight, which is the one that I got. I just picked it up a couple of days ago, and I've been tinkering with it and just doing stuff. I got a new trailer and I welded on some stuff, but I really wanted to break this down for people because the 80 amp Chicago Electric uh, inverter welder, it is not a bad welder. And if you actually read what it says and how to operate the damn thing, then you'd know what you're doing. Uh, I see a lot of these people, they're like, well, I'm using 1/8 60 13 or 60/11 or 70/10 or some shit like that. And they're using all these 1/8 bars or rods. But if you actually took the time to read the instructions or even the ads for these, it literally says don't go higher than 3/32, which is 1/16 of an inch smaller than 1/8, which everybody's using. At 3/32, your largest rod that you're supposed to use with these machines, you can weld for 5 minutes, but then you have to wait 5 minutes. So it's a 50-50, and that's at your rating of 75 to 80 amp, depending on what you're welding. But 5 minutes of welding with that, and that's the largest that you can go with. Now the smallest rod that you can go with is the 1/16th, and I don't know if you know what 1/16th is, but this is this is your electric welders electrodes, 1/16th, 2 inch or 2 pound. That's that's your smallest welding rod that you can use. 60,000 pound brake force. That's 60-13. That's your standard size. Now, imagine that being able to weld for 10 minutes with a 10-minute cool down. Then you have your 30 seconds where you can weld for 5 minutes with a 5-minute cool down, or 10 minutes, depending on the welder, I guess, because the Chicago Electric and the Yes Welder are basically the same welder, just different packaging. But the one has a different fan than the other. Now, these people are welding too big of sticks, and they're complaining that they can only weld for like a minute or two with 1/8, and then they're complaining that the welder's bad. The welder's bad. If you're getting 2 minutes out of an oversized rod that you're not supposed to be using the machine with, then what are you complaining about? You're not using the tool the way it's intended to, and then you're complaining that the tool is not working the way it's supposed to. No, it is doing its job. It is doing the best it can because you are abusing it. Now, it says that on these things that you don't go thicker than 1/16 or something like that. But if you actually chamfer your edges, like you have two butted joints coming together, cut it out, grind it down to a 45, and just fill that gap in. Do a couple passes. You can weld, like 5/16 and stuff like that. Easy. It's easy to weld that as long as you take the time to grind it down, clean it out, lay down different bead layers, and build up. Don't just be like, well, I'm going to get the biggest rod that I can fit in this thing, and I'm just going to fill it with metal just right now. That's not how welding works. And these people making these videos are like, oh, I'm a welder. I've got 20, 30 years of experience. I mean, I see a video of a guy, elderly guy, welding it, and he's just globbing it on, and he's like, well, it just doesn't work. It's a horrible welder. No, it's not. You're abusing your tool and then saying the tool isn't working. I'll post photos. Yeah, I mean, it literally says on it, don't do this, don't do that, don't use this, don't use that. It gives you the exact information you need right on the machine, right on the box. And people ignore it, and they're like, well, I'm a welder, I've been working in this trade for X amount of years, I know more than you. No, you may know more about welding, but you don't know more about the machine, because you just think all welders are identical for some reason. And I mean, you got an 80 amp or 120 amp welder, and you're trying to make it do stuff that like a 200 amp welder is supposed to do, and then you're complaining that it's not doing the same. It's ridiculous. I mean, you've got something 3 to 4 times the size of this getting run through a welder that can only handle something this big or twice as big. And in comparison, this end, and this is how big the end would be for the 3/32. This is the 1/16. So you're going from this size to this size for your basic welding with an 80 amp or 120 amp. You're doubling that size, that big size, and then the electricity can't flow through it. It can't get the end hot enough. It can't do it because it is not designed to do that. I mean, you got to pay attention to what your welder is capable of doing. You have to read the instructions. At least take 5 minutes to just look at the labels on the side of the machine. It is ridiculous that people are complaining that these machines are shit when they themselves are mistreating it and misusing it. I mean, you give Harbor Freight Tools like this bad name because people like that throw out misinformation and claim that they know what they're doing and what they're talking about because I'm a trained mechanic, I know what I'm talking about. I'm a trained welder, I've got 15, 20 years in welding. I went to school, I got a degree in it. It's like, your degree isn't worth shit if you can't even understand the limitations of your own machine. It's just ridiculous. That's all I gotta say about that.